Hello and welcome to another video about the game In Force to Heaven. Today I will show you how PTI rules, which is abbreviation for Polish Tactical Initiative, work. So this rule is meant to emphasize more difference between German and Polish command capabilities in Poland 1939, which is vastly different. And the PTI rule is very important in Polish counteroffensive period, which I will show you in an, I hope, short example of play at the end of this video. So first, let's talk about differences between Polish and German sides are handled in the game. For those who are watching my videos in sequence, there are some little changes to the module. I have finally added the Soviet advance schedule, which is right here. And for those who have not seen any previous videos with the module, it just treated as informational. So, the main difference between Polish and the German side in the game is that German HQs, mainly army HQs like this one, have a really huge command range. So for example, German armies have a range of 12, which is shown by this number, and most of Polish armies have only range of 8, which can be lowered by which can be lowered in many more ways than the German HQs. So this brings us to the situation where basically the German armies are much better commanded than the Polish armies, and there is a lot larger risk of being out of command if you are playing the Polish side. But this is not the most important aspect of the game. The most important aspect is the cheat draw, because this is a cheat pool game, and in cheat pool games, well, it depends how it is handled, but many times it is a little like watching a movie. Like, let's see what are you going to do with what we get at the moment. It's sometimes hard to plan your moves. And in this game, in many parts of the day, of the turn, it is also true, but the German player has an option to really influence and plan what he will want to do during the turn. So the first thing is initiative, which we have right there on the time track. So at the first part of the game, at the first part of the campaign, the German player has the initiative. Then when the Polish player starts his counteroffensive, the initiative will change to Polish side for a limited period of time, which is counted by supplies gathered for this initiative. Well, it's a little, let's say, over-explanation of the history, because it was not really planned that much that armies that executed the counteroffensive were that much prepared for this counteroffensive. But to keep things much simpler than they could be, it is explained by gathered supply, and it works this way that when we pick up to two armies for the counteroffensive, we check how far were they from the closest supply base. So, for example, if Pomorze army is right there, and we decide to start the counteroffensive with the Pomorze army and some other army, we will check how many hexes through the road it was from the closest, for example, this Palmyry base, which is right there. And with those calculations, there is a table that gives you simply a number of days in which the Polish side will have initiative. When this ends, there is no initiative, and this influences mostly the first activation of the day. So the first activation is at 5 a.m., which is set here, Polish or German initiative. So when the German player has the initiative, the first cheat, any cheat, is played by the German player at will. In the Polish initiative, there is option to play only one cheat, which is called the coordination cheat. If we look here, it's right there, 1E. And this cheat is kind of a attack cheat, which comes from the options of this cheat, that it is the best to attack with this cheat. We'll get to some details in a moment. And then the German player has option always at the beginning of the turn to preserve two activations. Well, it also depends from the scenario. It scales down to our scenarios. So in smaller scenarios, there will be, for example, only one preserved cheat, or even zero if we play some less important part of the front scenario. But considering the campaign, the German player in the German initiative can basically prepare three cheats. So for example, we're gonna take Plan as the initiative cheat, and then prepare Heeresgruppe army cheat, and for example, let's go with looking. For example, Luftwaffe cheat. And those two cheats those two cheats can be played from hand, just at the beginning of any turn. Return to the pool, return to the pool, return to the pool, and return to the pool. So the German player, during the course of the whole day, of the whole turn, has an option to really sequence his three cheats. And there's another option for German motorized corps activations, like this one. There's, with this little p, an option to postpone this activation. So instead of playing this activation, it can be placed in the postponed box, which in the very rare but the most ideal situation for the German player can have 4 prepared cheats and play them in any sequence as he wants. And the German player has always the first word in the action phase. If we open the player rate and look on the action sequence, and we follow it step by step, we have, just like I told you before, first 500 is the initiative activation, then there is a German decision for kept activation, only then is the Polish decision to play his kept activation, and this concerns only one option, which is the coordination activation, which can be postponed instead of being played. This is the only Polish activation that can be postponed. And if neither of those, and then we have PTI use, we'll get in a moment into this, and only then we got to the point D, where random activation cheat is drawn from the pool. On 7 a.m., it is always random. First, it regards many, let's say, game situations. So it's the best to have random cheat always on 700. And secondly, higher ranking officers rather slept at night. So beginning of each day, checking all of situational reports and sending some initial sunrise orders means that on 700 or around those morning hours, there is a kind of confusion that it is represented by always random cheat on 700. And this is exactly what it is said here. And then we get to what we got to play. So logistics cheat is on the side, and we've got action cheats. Then if the cheat says to advance time, or advance the cheat to create conflicting orders, we will do that. And on 11 p.m. we proceed to the next phase. If not, we go back up. If it is 7:00, we got random. If not, we got to German decision for kept activation. So this shows that the German player has really a lot of operational influence and operational initiative of what happens on the map. But what with the Polish initiative then? So the Polish initiative gives a Polish player an option. By the way, yes, I know there's an option to seek for the cheat that I want, but I have not done this yet. Oh, there it is. So the Polish initiative gives a Polish player option to play coordination cheat on 5 a.m. And regarding that, it has a little p letter. It means that instead of being played on 5:00, it can be immediately placed into the postponed box. The same concerns situation where it is drawn from the pool. And with this one in postponed box, the Polish player, after the German player, if he has any postponed or preserved activations, will have option to play this cheat instead of drawing random cheat from the pool. So this means that the Polish player would have only one chance to have any influence on the battlefield during the turn, and it is whether the initiative is German, initiative is Polish, or there is no active initiative. But here we come to the PTI, so Polish Tactical Initiative rule. This cheat has a special symbol on the bottom, which is right there, this red arrow, and this comes into play in two situations. So let's open our procedures quick reference, and let's check the procedure for this activation. So we have postpone option, check. The player, if played from the postponed box, there is a risk that it will not be played. So this is another way to block a little Polish control over the battlefield. Then we have standard check CO, pick two armies, communication check, and then we have steps FA and FB. FA considers situation where no Polish counteroffensive is active. Then we have to roll a die, and we get a tactical initiative cheat on the Polish postponed holding box. In case if Polish counteroffensive is active, a tactical initiative is automatically granted to the Polish player, plus the Polish player will get tactical initiative as long as the coordination cheat is active on the time track. So, for example, if it is played on 9:00 and then moved 3 columns according to conflicting orders rules, and then we advance time according to this little clock, in those two activations, 11 and 13, we will have PTI. PTI means that the Polish player, instead of drawing random activation, if the random activation cheat is drawn, can get two cheats and pick one. With one exception, which has just happened. If there is a logistics check, logistics checks has to be taken and resolved. The other cheat goes back to the activation pool, and then it is done again. So for example, we again take two, and we've got Guderian and Luftwaffe. So the Polish player, for example, decides that Guderian will be played. This one goes back to the pool. Again, we take two. Oh, and we've got General Staff. So we play General Staff. Advance time. This one goes back to the pool. We get again two. and the Polish player will decide to take a suit cheat. So as you can see, it is not really kind of a control over what is happening, but most importantly, it is throwing off balance German advance. So the Polish somewhat controls or his actions or the actions that the German player will react with for the Polish coordination activation. So this is what helps to see how the German side is thrown off the balance. So there is a second thing, and this is the tactical initiative cheat, and it simply works in a way that this cheat is played in the postponed box, and then and of course this automatic PTI works only if the Polish counteroffensive is active, but in any case, if the time marker is out of coordination influence and the postponed activation is tactical initiative, the Polish player can one time decide to play the tactical initiative cheat to again draw two cheats from the pool and then pick one. For example, in this time it would mean that the Polish activation has been played. And of course, this is after the German decision to play postponed or preserved activation. So let's see how this works in practice in the scenario number 9, because there are few ways that the scenario begins. All of September 1st scenarios begin with the special sequence. So for example, let's open the border battle, because we have prepared first Luftwaffe right, then first special Fallweis activation and Polish response cheat. Later scenarios before the historical Polish counteroffensive, we start normally. So for example, if we open the campaign of fallback September 6th, the German player will start the scenario in the full glory of Wehrmacht advance and will be able to prepare 3 cheats. So first is for the initiative, and then 2 will go to the preserved activation box, for example, like this one. Then we have, for example, scenario number 9 or campaign starting on September 9th. So let's open this one. And then we start with the Polish initiative, which means that the Polish player has an option to play coordination cheat immediately and get tactical and get greater PTI. And then we have a scenario which starts at the end of campaign, or technically is the middle of a campaign, but regarding actions in the country is almost over. This is this should be not here, and this is the date where there is no initiative. So the first activation of the day is always random. So we'll start with the coordination, for example. So to see and train actually the full glory of the PTI, let's make a short playthrough of the scenario 9, the Polish Bzura Counteroffensive. Scenario 9. Another note, some of those scenarios they are not learning scenarios like the first 5, but are kind of training scenarios. So for example, scenario 9, Bzura battle, will show you the work of Polish counteroffensive and Polish initiative. But for example, small scenario Tomaszów, for starting with the September 17th, will show you rules of Soviet entry. So before, if you'd like to start the campaign, for example, not from the September 1st, but from September 9th or 6th, you are able to train the most important rules for the later stages of the campaign, like the Polish counteroffensive and the Soviet advance, without having to get them on your face in the campaign. Those scenarios take around 4 to 6 maximum hours to play, so if you have one evening, it is completely possible to play them. So let's open Bzura, and we have only this part of the country. Of course, as this is a smaller scenario, we have some special rules, which we will not go through now. We have laid down two important cards that are used in this scenario. So first is the Plan West Stage 2 fallback for the Łódź Army. And the second is counteroffensive, as a reminder that the text on the card basically tells you what to do when you start the counteroffensive. But basically it is a reminder that Pomorze and Poznań armies begin the attack towards the Bzura River. As we will leave special scenario rules for now, there is one that I need to mention, is that historically attack on Łęczyca, which is right there, this town, started around midday, around 12 o'clock. So having the time track and the exact hours of the day, it would be really a mistake to not start the scenario on the historical hour. So we have preliminary prepared the time track showing some of already played cheats, but there's an option that the first four cheats can be played randomly from the activation pool to change the initial setup for this hour of this activation. And in the special notes, we have this exactly pointed out that in the setup, do I have setup in here? Oh, I think not. Oh yeah, there it is. Postponed Polish coordination is played as the first cheat for 5 p.m. with automatic success. And there is a reminder to pay close attention to the Polish tactical initiative rules, paragraph number 7.11. So, let's begin the gameplay. Everything regarding, for example, air units is already prepared in the scenario setup. So we begin our scenario with the coordination. And of course, there is an option to postpone this activation, but if of course it makes no sense at the moment. So we simply play it. So first, we automatically get tactical initiative to the postponed activation to have it later to be used later in the day, and we can begin our movements. So although the Pomorze and Poznań armies are designated for the counteroffensive, it is not ordered to activate those two armies with this cheat. It can be done with another armies according to normal rules. So for example, let's try first to, and of course, if someone would say that, but it is not historical, it should be Poznań and Pomorze, or for example, if you're doing the counteroffensive with two armies, this cheat has to activate those two armies. And I say no, because this would give kind of the only way to use this cheat. And this game is all about training another scenarios that are not strictly historical, and doing some research. It is perfectly possible that in case of this cheat and what it represents, it would be possible to activate those two armies, and this is what I am going to do now. To activate two armies with this cheat, we need to check if those armies are in contact, and to be in contact, command ranges of those two armies have to overlap. So the Witch army has now command range of 5. The army HQ is on its emergency side, so it has lowered range from 8 to 5. It shouldn't be lose step, it should be simply flip on the scrollable list. And in addition, we have logistics damage of 1. This means that this HQ has only range of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the Poznań has range of 5 plus 1 is 6. So those two armies are definitely in contact. But Army Pomorze is not in contact with Army Łódź, which means those two armies could not have been activated by this cheat. So let's start with the Łódź army. And as this is an army activation, the Polish player can do attacks or movements doesn't have to decide if the whole army will attack or move. But first we get movement segment, then we get combat segment. So let's begin with 2nd Legionów Division. We move 1, 2, 3. We add DFR. 10th Division will move 1, 2, 3. And that's it. 13th Division will move 1, 2, 3, 4. Wołyńska Cavalry will move to this hex, paying 4 movement points. Kresowa to this hex, paying 4 movement points, and this division will move in here. Win conditions for these scenarios are only for the Polish side. One is to take control of the Regny base, supply base by Poznań or Pomorze units. The second one is to escape at least 6 steps of Army Łódź to the other side of the Wisła River. And let's try to make some historical moves in here. Wielkopolska will go through the Bzura, paying 1, 2, 3, plus 1 for Zok, plus 1 for the river. 17th will move to this hex, and 14th will move, let's see, marsh is 3 plus 1, so we cannot move to this hex because we have no sufficient movement points, but we can detach a regiment to this hex, to the adjacent hex, without any movement point considerations. So here will be a regiment which will get DFR of 1, and we get a detach 1 on this unit. 25th Division will attack towards Łęczyca. 26th Division will try to move south. Let's see here. Let's move with Podolska. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. Now we can, as this is an army activation, we can set up army artillery. So let's place this one to this hex, and Poznań, for example, to this hex. We have option to attack in two places. Wielkopolska has used all of its MPs, so that's 3 plus 1 for the river and plus 1 for Zok. So it gets no recon marker. just as a reminder that it has no sufficient MP for recon. And we have, after movement, option to attack with this mobile unit, and we might possibly attack this regiment, and of course attack Łęczyca. And this is what we're going to do. So let's start with the Łęczyca attack. We open CRT. The initial ratio is 2:1. We've got +1 for size difference, -1 for the town. Let's use the artillery. This will give us a column shift, which will improve situation on 1, 2, 5, 6 results. And that's all of the Polish support. Then the German unit can use some support. And the 8th Army still has some artillery to be used. So we'll go with that. We'll use 1 divisional artillery for -1. And let's make a combat roll. And the result is a 2, which is EX. No one will advance after combat. The German unit is destroyed, and the Polish unit suffers a step loss. No advance after combat. And we mark those losses on daily reports. So Poznań army got 1 loss, and the German army got 1 loss. And now we go to the PTI rules that will start at the moment. Coordination goes 3 according to those arrows. We advance time according to this clock. And now the Polish player has active counteroffensive, which is indicated by the Polish initiative. So this means that this red arrow now is active and there is a PTI. So the Polish player draws 2 cheats and picks 1. Oh, that's lucky draw for the Polish player. PSP has another option, which is not uploaded, but it is an artillery setup, and I think we will not use this one. We will go with the Plan West activation. As the counteroffensive is active, there is no option to take another side of this cheat. So first we pick stances. Armia Pomorze and Poznań will stay on the move side. About this attack, I've decided not to do this. Because if we attacked on one, we would get +1 for size difference, but we would get for no recon -2, which is 1, 2. High risk of losing a step on this brigade. And as cavalry brigades, when they lose a step, they lose attack capability. They can only use a cavalry right in ZOK. It is better to save this unit step for later. So we pick move stance for Pomorze, for Poznań, and for Łódź army. All armies will move. Conflicting orders are now on the value of 2, and those regard only armies Poznań and Łódź, because those armies were activated. Pomorze army has no conflicting orders, and this lowers HQ command ranges by the value. So in this case it is by 2. Let's withdraw this unit 1 hex. This unit in Włocławek, we will start moving this way. Let's move this one. 1, 2, 3. That's the FRX. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing now things fast, so I might make some tactical mistakes. So don't worry about those. Nowogródzka according to special rules of this scenario, uh, it is out of command permanently, so it has only 3 movement points. Nevertheless, we will move it towards Vyshogrod Bridge. Podolska will continue moving. Podolska is out of supply. Let's see if it is out of command or not. Poznań army has 5 plus 1 from the airbase, that's 6, minus 2 for conflicting orders, that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, Podolska is still in command. So we will move 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 25th will go south. 1, 2, and 3, using the road. No, let's stop here, because if we burn all of our DFRs, it will not be able to do anything to attack. And if German player approaches to this unit, there will be still option to react. 17th Division cannot attack, but can move to this hex. 1, 2, and I forgot to add DFR for it, so it should be 2 already. This regiment will stay in place, and this cavalry will 1, 1, 2, 3 for this hex, 1 for leaving, 1 for entering Izok. It can move to this hex. Let's stay with this regiment in there. Let's move this 14th division down, and let's move this division also to this hex. Like this. As this is a plan activation, we can move our armored trains, but as the railway infrastructure is now being bombarded by German units, we need to take an AT check, which is armored train check. We simply roll a die and see how many hexes the train can move. So let's move train number 14, Paderewski. 6 hexes, 1, 2, 3 to this hex, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 hex. And train number 11, we will use it also to move south. We roll and it's a 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 to the same hex. Because why not? For those units, Legionów will move 1, 2, 3, 4. It is on X now. 13th will move with this hex, and it is also on X. And this 10th division will try to, or no, let's shift those units, because there will be an option to stay alive a little longer with this division than this one, and we can move another hex, which brings us to X. Kresowa, 1, 2, 3 for the forest, plus 1 for the river, and plus 1 for and plus no, let's move southwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. Yeah, let's stay in this hex. Let's move this division to this hex to give some cover, and let's move Wołońska to this hex. And we have some Warszawa units, but we can't do really much with them, as those brigades and regiments have to stay in Warszawa to keep it safe. And this would be done for the Plan West activation. We move 4, we advance time, and we still got PTI because of the coordination influence. We take 2. Logistics, and this is the only exception when it has to be played. So let's check if anyone is out of supply. Yes, this one is out of supply. Well, not out of supply, but isolated, technically. And I think this will cover this up. As it was the logistics check without the clock, we will do again activation check for the 5 p.m. is Polish plan and PSP. So and that's interesting option because Polish units are now a little tired, and it might be a better idea to give some German player some, but it would risk the German player with some reaction. Let's go with the plan activation anyway, just to shift time, and we do the same as the plan west. Oh, by the way, in the plan west, the Łódź army was mandated to move possibly as fast as they can towards the Wisła River, which was naturally done because it is now a main task to rescue this army. And with this activation, there's really not much to be done because uh, all ranges are now on -3, so Pomorze has basically no range, although it has. We can still move this unit to Lubień, and this unit with 2 movement points can also move. Yeah, there are things to be done. After all, this cavalry will leave. Poznań has now range of 3. 1, 2, 3. There's no point attacking because there's really enormous -3 DRM for any attacks. Yes, let's continue movement. This cavalry is out of command right now, but it has still 3 movement points. So 1, 2, and 3. This regiment will stay, and let's move those 2 divisions. This one is 1, 2, 3. It is in command, so it can move in here. Let's go to X, and this division can go. No, let's stay. Let's cover Łęczyca. And I think this would be it for this activation. So the PTI coordination influence is over, but the Polish player still has tactical cheat in its postponed box. So he can, for example, decide to play it now. But let's not do this. Let's first see what the German. Although, if we use this now and we burn any Polish activation, the time will go into 9 p.m., which will give additional negative DRMs for combat, which might save a skin for the Polish player. But on the other hand, the German player will have definitely some nice reaction on the later hour. But let's use this tactical initiative, and let's draw 2 cheats. Plan or Hepner. So as you can see, it is not kind of Polish control over the battlefield, but it's more of a throwing off balance, the German player. So plan. Yeah, let's go with this cheat, and of course the German player can pick the side of the cheat in this case. So the German player will pick Hepner activation, and with this activation, this 4th Panzer unit cannot leave the executed mandatory attack marker, so it is now locked in place according to special scenario rules. As we don't have situation around Prussia army escape, the 1st Panzer division is basically securing the right flank of this long attack. And with this, we have only one division left, which is 31st Infantry Division. And let's simply attack with this division. Let's see if it is in command. 10th Army HQ is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, it is in command. Additionally, it is in command of its Corps HQ. So we attack on clear conditions. It's going to be 1-to-1. The 10th Army still has one tactical air support, which we will use, as there might be no occasion to use it later. It is a clear terrain. There's no considerations regarding size. We add 2 DRM from the TAS, and let's burn one more divisional artillery, which will bring us to this. Or no, let's not do this, because we would rather get DR DDR results. So let's unflip the divisional artillery and let's attack. 2 dice, and the result is a 4-4, which is a 4, which is a DDR. Double roll does not influence anything at the moment, but the first 4 does. If we open player rate and see this little table, we've got double roll that influences coordination, attacker stall, or refugee in town, doesn't matter, but we have tactical air support. If unmodified die is for plus, which it is, the Polish retreating unit will suffer an additional step loss if it escapes through any open terrain or open clear terrain or through the road. And with the DDR result, it also suffers a step loss if it retreats through the defensive terrain. So let's analyze this. If we escape through these 2 hexes, we will only... And the first retreat priority is to get as low step loss value as possible. So if we escape to these woods, and we need to escape 2 hexes, no, we do not, because this unit has no DFR. Yes, this unit is tired, and this unit cannot move, which means it cannot fulfill any step of retreat. So for the first unfulfilled hex of retreat, we get a shock marker, and for the second unfulfilled, it is a automatic step loss. Nope, not this one. We get a disrupt, or not. Okay, let's use the marker. Now, as the unit physically does not escape, it does not take the step loss from the defensive terrain nor from the tactical air support, because it's kind of desperate defense that turned out to be a little better than it would be in panic retreat. So this DFR actually saved this unit at the moment. There was an option to use Łódź artillery, but we did not use it. So the Hepner does not advance time. We do not have PTI anymore because the cheat is used, so we simply I think this was not shuffled properly, and we've got HG Nord. HG suit was already played, so it has to be HG Nord, and we can activate one army of the Northern Army Group, it could be third. And here we have two units that are actually transferred to the Third Army. So those two units are part of the Third Army now. But let's push until the German player has option to do this. Let's push with those units. So we activate Fourth Army. Are we done? Yes, we are done. HG North goes 3. Advance time. We get no activation, which means that something happened on the other part of the front, and we get German plan at the end of the day. All right, so let's not resolve this plan. Let's leave it as it is for now. Let's only see what we've got to do with the other stuff in the sequence of play. Because we will not continue this scenario, it was supposed to just show you how the PTI rules work. So first, we got optional logistics check, which doesn't apply because there was a logistics cheat played. We've got Polish counteroffensive supply adjustment. It doesn't matter in this scenario because the scenario ends before the supply runs out. Daily reports. We check daily reports on the command displays. Then we check legendary battles, which none of which has occurred. We've got then Polish March losses. Oh, let's do this. So we open the appropriate table, which is right here. We roll 2 dice. We've got 3 and 5. 3 is a Modlin Narew army, doesn't matter in this scenario, and Prusy Lublin army, doesn't matter in this scenario. Pockets creation and supply. So let's see if any Polish army HQ is currently out of supply, out of connection with the Palmyry base, which is the only one in the area. And we see that which army has connection over roads and railroads, and then 2 in total hexes can be in the other terrain, so it is fine. Poznań army 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it is fine, and Pomorze army is fine. So everyone is fine for now. Then we check. Oh, come on. Yes, then we check refugees. No refugees on the map. We've got city clearing. We flip. If this unit was, of course, still in here, it would change into clearing 2. Then we've got night movements, so we would get some movements. And then we've got cleanup. And there, HQ command and Warszawa defense phase. I wanted to focus on those 2 phases. So first, reorganization. Any army or front HQ which is currently on the town, at least 4 hexes from any German units, can flip from its emergency side. So Pomorze army, no. Poznań army, no. And Łódź army, of course, no. Then we need to perform a relocation, which is mandatory in case of a German unit 3 hexes from up to 3 hexes from the HQ hex, which is this case, of course, and which is this case. But if we relocate into emergency site, we can relocate. We do not have to relocate, or can relocate to closer than 4 hexes. So let's jump with this HQ, for example, to this hex, and let's jump with Łódź to Radom. hex. And then we've got 3GD, mandatory attack. If the mandatory attack marker is in play and was not placed this turn, roll 1d6. So we've got 1d6 roll, which is a 3. The roll is modified by current value of the marker, which is +1, so that's 4, and the Polish counteroffensive, any turn after announcement, so that's again +1, which is a 5. It is not 6. If it was 6, the mandatory attack would have been removed from the map. If not, the value is raised by 1, and the marker is unflipped to active side, which means the Warszawa will have to be attacked by at least one division during the day, plus any adjacent unit. If there is at least one, well, at least one division has to stay adjacent to this hex at all times. And then we move to another turn. At the beginning of the another turn, as there is a Polish activation, Polish initiative active, the Polish player will have an option to play coordination as the first activation of the day. But there's a little problem with this. If we take a closer look, the Polish player will not really have a tactical initiative in the morning, because let's say we played this at 5 a.m. Of course, the tactical initiative marker will be granted, which can be played in any activation of the day. But according to normal additional tactical initiative, which comes from the influence of the coordination marker, we will basically get none of those, because the German player, let's take Luftwaffe, the German player will probably have at least one preserved activation. So we play coordination at 5, then we go to 7. And as you might remember in the action sequence, if we go up in this sequence and we stop at 7, there is a random activation before Polish PTI decision, which means this is a random activation. And then on 9 a.m., the German player will probably play his cheat. Why? Because again, if we check the action sequence, so it was 7 activation, so we go past this, we go back to German decision for kept activation. So the German player will have as the first one decision to play his cheat, which will be probably preserved, and only then, if he declines to, there is a PTI use for the Polish player. So if the German player does that, the Polish player will have no PTI use in the first part of the game. And this is very intentional, because it might be from the kind of storytelling point of view, it might be a better decision to use this in the later part of the day, putting this first into postpone box and then playing it on 9 or 10 and have the better control over the end of the day than on the start of the day. And this is good because anyway, on 5 a.m. there is always a Polish activation. Well, not Polish, but random, in case of postponed not activation not played. Because again, if we go to the action sequence, we've got German decision for kept activation, if declined, Polish decision, if declined, random activation. So at the stage of Polish decision for kept activation, of kept activation, oh sorry, no, it is initiative activation. But anyway, in case of declining to play initiative activation, we jump straight into the random activation cheat pool. There should be another arrow, so this is one to be corrected also. So basically, I hope I managed to show you some how this mechanic works and what it tries to represent in the game. And I hope that this scenario will be one of more interesting scenarios of the game. And of course, here we have to give you some context. This is only a small part of the scenario. And regarding those no activation cheats, if we close this one and we open the campaign on September 9th, let's take a look what happens on the other side. So here we have our sector, exactly the same setup, but on the south. And this is why this division is locked down. This is why there is the whole damn Prussian army trying to escape through the Wisła River. And this 1st Panzer Division is trying to not only try to disrupt those units, but most of all cover the flank of the 10th Army, which is stretched a little too thin up to Warszawa, which has to be mandatory attacked. Downwards, we've got dying Iłża battle, where another elements of 10th Army. This is why only a part of 10th Army is in the Bzura offensive. Part of 10th Army and 15th Motorized Corps are trying to get this pocket closed. Well, Kraków and 14th Army is another story. Those are a little like two separate campaigns. And what is Army Modlin doing, from which we had Nowogródzka cavalry? Army Modlin is busy with maintaining a pressure on the Bug River, on the Bug and Narew River on the in the northern part. The northern part is defended by Narew Operational Group, and the Modlin army is trying to stop the German advance, which tries to give a beautiful enveloping movement towards Warszawa. So that's the context of those no activation sheets. So we've got to stop somewhere, and I think this will be this moment. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or if you have any, for example, issues with some rules or some advices, maybe to change something, maybe to correct something. Thank you for watching.